Can you guys hear me on this mic at all?
Yes.
Okay, good. So, what they asked me to do today was really kind of give you guys how I understood the industry, what I see is happening now, and how to help you guys avoid the pitfalls of what will happen and what's kind of happening now in a big way, where people are starting to buy NFTs as a knee-jerk reaction to missing out. So FOMO, fear of missing out, has become a real thing, and it's unfortunate because there's a lot of projects that are just not worthwhile to do, but you don't really know why and the what force. So let's begin with how I started and how I started in this whole thing with NFTs and crypto is really, I actually was a trader. I was a trader for almost 30 years. I was 17, got into the industry, got licensed at 19, and became one of the leading authorities for futures, forex, options trading. I've written 7 books on it. I've been on Forbes, I've been on MarketWatch, the whole 9. And my first experience, my first foray into Bitcoin was an article I read in Wired magazine. And I don't know if anybody remember this article or saw this article, but it talked about a conference in Colorado in which people were using this weird cryptocurrency, and they were using Bitcoin to trade with each other. And you know, being a long-term hacker, I've always traded, I've always been in investments, the like, but I've always been a believer in one of the core tenets of hacking, which is all information should be free, and we should always have the ability to transfer goods and services amongst each other directly without middlemen. So when I saw this, I was really excited about it, but I couldn't figure out how to get it. And so back then it was like doing some kind of weird drug deal, right? You had to go to special websites, and you know, the Silk Road was out there, and we were talking about the dark web and who was using this Bitcoin, and it was a really harrowing time because you didn't even know if you were going to get the thing that you were trying to get and who was buying it. And there was a website that was peer-to-peer, and you could talk to people directly, and if you met them in certain places like restaurants or gas stations or somewhere at the coffee house, they would trade with you a disc, not even a disc at the time, just a USB stick with your Bitcoin on it, but you had to give them a bunch of cash. You're like, what the heck is going on with all this stuff? So I bought my first 10-bit Bitcoin at $367. And mind you, I was a trader at the time, and the number one thing that I was trading was gold, and I was doing a lot of gold spreads, and you know, I was running my hedge fund. So for me, this was a lark. And I'm like, okay, let me try it out. If I lose $3,600, it's not going to change my life. It's not going to, you know, end. Who cares? So I bought $3,600 worth of Bitcoin, and it shot up to 1867 or 1840, you know, some weird $1,800 number. But I remember that it was on parity with gold, and I'm like, there's no way in heck that Bitcoin should be the same price as gold. I don't even know what I got. It's on this little USB drive. I could see it. Who's going to take it? I immediately went back on the website, found some weird guy, met him out of the coffee house, and said, "Hey, give me 18 grand for this." And he gave me the 18 grand, and so I made 6 times on my money. Completely forgot about Bitcoin because I saw it collapse down to like $900 or $800. I'm like, oh man, I'm so smart. I'm a great trader. I know exactly. Oh man, I'm so brilliant. You know, I'm making my money in the real markets. I have no idea what's happening, and who cares what's going on with Bitcoin. Next call I get, like 2 years later, my buddy says Bitcoin's at $20,000. What the heck? Bitcoin's at $20,000? It was like November. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Sure enough, I joined and got involved in mining Bitcoin. And I said, you know, this is going to be the great thing. And the Bitcoin collapsed again. It went to 9,000. And in that space, I set up a company on making games. And I started to really get a better understanding of what this was all about and what was coming next. And I ran across a website called Engine. And Engine was doing NFTs. And I ran across a protocol called Wax. And Wax had the first token that involved NFTs. And the concept was so simple. Whereas one Bitcoin, you have 8 different decimal points behind Bitcoin, so eventually you have individual Satoshis. One NFT was equal to one NFT. That's it. There's no change, there's nothing. So if you have limited editions of these NFTs, you can do really well. So I was hooked. I'm like, okay, how do we turn our games into NFTs? I'm emailing Engine, I'm emailing Wax, I'm trying to get programmers. There's nobody who knew how to do any of these protocols. But I knew that this was kind of the next big thing. Lo and behold, we couldn't figure it out. And all of a sudden, pandemic hits. And the game that we were setting up, we were going to make a game that you could travel around the world, collect unicorns and all this kind of stuff. I couldn't put out the game that I originally wanted to put out. And I was so frustrated, and I read an article, and it was so simple. It was June of 2019. William Shatner just released NFTs, a collectible series, on Wax, the same protocol I've been trying to get on, and sold $100,000 in NFTs in 9 minutes. That was it. I was hooked. I said, I've got to figure this out. I went to all the programmers. I hate Telegram. So one thing about me is I hate new technology. I can't stand it. I don't like working new stuff. I don't like working new protocols. I can't stand Discord. I think Telegram's ridiculous. And on top of that, I don't like social media. So here I am now digging through Telegram rooms, trying to figure out who the Wax developers are, who do I need to talk to, who do I need to meet, and sure enough, we figure it out. And October of that same year, we release our own NFTs. And so we figured it out. And it was still an experiment, but I could kind of see what was happening. And this space has been phenomenal in its growth. We released that series of NFTs, released another series of NFTs, and we released our most successful series of NFTs that had utility. And as I started watching and seeing the space evolve, I really began to see that it's a difficult space for someone brand new to come in. I am not an art connoisseur. I took art history in both high school and college. I know all about, various styles of art. Whether this fractal image is worth $5 million because they're selling them, or Beeple was worth, $69 million. It's at that point, who cares, right? It's like, I don't understand the art. I like it. It looks nice. I don't have a reference for it. But what I did come to realize is that it didn't matter what I liked. That there's actually a crypto Twitterverse in which all the whales talk to one another. And when they talk to each other, they pick the winners and the losers in this industry. And I had to take a big step back. As a trader, one thing that I learned was technical analysis and how to follow moving average, boot averages, and Bollinger Bands. I've spoken with Steve Nisa, the guy who created candlesticks. We've been on stage together talking. So I really understood technical analysis. But how do you do technical analysis within no historical data? You cannot create true technical analysis. So what I had to do is I looked at this industry the same way we did back in 1999. So mind you, I've been trading for 30 years. I started when I was 17, so I've seen multiple cycles. And so when 1999, 1998 hit, there was Web 1.0. And in Web 1.0, there was no historical data for any of the e-toys and the e-everything that was coming up. But there was one simple thing that we had to understand, is that we had to follow the momentum. If the sentiment was driving a direction, if the energy was going in a different direction, we would ride that momentum and take advantage of these trades. And so mentally, I had to go back to a shift of looking at this in a lot more simplistic fashion. If people like it, and if people are moving, you buy. If it's not moving, and Peter had a great segment where they're breaking it down. Here's the website of Empire. Do you see there's activity? No activity on Telegram. That's the bad side. But these are all market sentiment behaviors that you're trying to figure out. This goes back to basic fundamental analysis in trading, in which where is the energy, where are people thinking, where are people moving? Don't buy things that don't make sense. So I'm a big fan. So I'll tell you about my most recent successes and my most recent failures. So my most recent failure was I got a call, it had been like 2 months ago, when Board API clubs first came out. And we were in the middle of doing the project that we're doing now, and my partner, my colleague and I, we looked at Bored Ape Yacht Club, we kind of liked it. We had an opportunity to buy 5 of them at about 1 to 1.5 ETH each, but we didn't really comprehend the energy behind it because I didn't understand about both the crypto Twitter and I didn't really understand about the whole crypto Instagram and what this whole new thing of profile pictures was starting to evolve in the space. So we kind of sat on it. Bored Ape Yacht Club exploded. You cannot get a Bored Ape Yacht Club for less than 36 Ethereum. And yet we knew about it literally the first week of it. And we didn't comprehend what momentum and what was driving the industry. And so we began to really understand and take a deep dive in where the energy is and how you tap into some of the, I guess, utility functions of what some of these NFTs are doing. The reason why people like Bored Ape Yacht Clubs is because it has the opportunity, and they're creating games, they're creating memes, they're creating a whole entire universe, and they just signed a deal with one of the top, I guess, media agents to now put out their project. You know that that's a project that's going to probably expand and continue to create value, and the reality is there's only 10,000 of them. So those people in that club, there's never going to be any more. It's going to be an explosive project that only 10,000 people can own because it goes back to how powerful NFTs are. They're indivisible. They can never be broken down into this 10,000. One of them can be broken into 8 decimal points, like Bitcoin. This one NFT is this one NFT. Part of the securitization that will be coming will be to allow people to fractionalize a lot of these NFTs that have been built. So there's things that are happening to allow the utility to expand because people are beginning to see the value of how these NFTs function. I think one of our 2 most recent successes is that a project came out and it was called Crypto Dad. And I liked the project, and you could get it, I think it was like 0.5 ETH or something. But I liked it because I'm a dad, and I'm a crypto guy, so I'm a crypto dad, so it really met my criteria. And you could actually see the characters, and all the characters are reminiscent of The Simpsons. Bottom, 0.5 ETH, I think they're now 1.3, and they're hovering there. I think they'll go higher, but they just signed a potential cartoon deal where they want the characters are intended to be licensed by cartoonists because people like the project and they want to expand on it because of the imagery that's been designed. We just also started buying, if anybody's following Shiba Inu, I think it's one of my favorite projects. We made a ton of money doing it and I like it. But they just released their first series of NFTs and we aped into it. And there's a reason why the whole idea of aping the stuff, when you've done right, works well for you. We missed the minting, even though we were there on the time frame. Shows up immediately on OpenSea, which is one of the core platforms that you can buy NFTs. And we got it 0.5, and now they've already tripled in value. And we believe it's going to go higher because the energy behind this project. So when you look at it, there's a lot of different platforms that are coming out. And they've been there. You have OpenSea, you have Wearable. I actually registered for the first time in my life on Christie's auction website because Christie's has gotten into the whole NFT game, and they've got a lot of standard artists who now are selling their art as NFTs, and they're more valuable because here's a real artist doing a one-of-one, and you can acquire a one-of-one, and you have the ability to be in this whole entire art world of NFTs. So there's a lot of platforms that are out there. You have OpenSea, you have Rarible, you have Super Rare, and OpenSea is right now winning the game, not because it's any better, but because they've become, almost like the McDonald's of NFTs. They allow you to use any token, any currency. It's easy to sign up, and they just recently did their mobile application. If you want to avoid just buying anything, and it's kind of weird too, because when this whole thing started, there's a lot of people who made money just buying anything. And now we're getting into the early mature phase of NFTs, which is weird because still nobody knows about it, right? Some of these projects have 3,000 owners, 4,000 owners. It's not like it's a big thing as far as thousands or hundreds of thousands of people. But the maturity of the market is starting to sink in because you have all the major people like Sotheby's, Christie's, also deciding who they believe are the best artists. So when you look at the marketplace and you really want to tap into it, I tell people do your homework. It's not very difficult to sign up for a Twitter account and start tracking some of these artists with large followings and starting to get a feel for what they're putting out, what their next projects are. It's not very difficult to do it on Instagram. And on some of these platforms, you can see what the top trending NFTs are, just like you're doing on CoinMarketCap. Aping in is not necessarily a bad thing once you do your research and you feel a little bit comfortable. I suggest, and it's a weird thing, right? A lot of people are finally catching up just to crypto only, and now NFTs are here, and it's like the leapfrog phase of those people who've been making money in crypto for the last 5 years, now transitioning and concentrating their wealth into the NFT space. But there's still room, there's still new projects, there's still many, many opportunities. So don't be afraid to look at the space or tap into the space. That's okay.
You guys are tangling.
Entanglement. But,
So,
yeah.
Can you explain to everybody what aping in means?
Yeah. So first and foremost, there's a million little lingo terms in the crypto space once you step in. And so my favorite is HODL, which is hold on for dear life. Someone says that it was a hold misspelled. I think it's like, no, that's not where it comes from. It was really hold on for dear life. And we've been talking about it for years. And so aping in is just when you see, it's a momentum trade, when you see other people getting in and you don't know why, you don't have a particular reason for what, but you know that there's energy and momentum behind that project. The only core problem with aping in is that if you're not careful, and Peter kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier, but didn't really get in depth, there are whales, people who have tons of money, who will make something look good so they can get other people in. They'll jump in, and then they'll drive it up on Twitter or wherever else, and then people ape in on kind of a false premise. And so you have to be careful how you ape into a project and how much activity is behind it. But you can see the conversations. You can see, literally, you can hashtag something, and if there's tens of thousands of hashtags or hundreds and hundreds of hashtags, you can tell the difference between what's being pushed by the whales and what's being really pushed by the community. And the Telegram will tell you, one of my favorite projects that I bought into was an identical replica of our company, which our gaming company, which is licensing major properties and turning them into NFTs. And they did a successful, phenomenal job. It's a company called eComic. And now they're doing comic books. And they've got a real active community. They've got an active angry community too, because people are pissed off that bots are taking over and taking the place of regular people where they can't get to the project like they would, like they want to. But it's a really, really good project, and Disney is one of the major partners. So I've bought tons of tokens in there, and I've tried to buy tons of NFTs, but it's a tough marketplace. But there's a lot of really good products out there. Just do your vetting. Telegram, Twitter, and like I said, there's a whole crypto Twitterverse that's a subset of all this that's happening. That if you really want to know what's happening in real time, you should connect to the influencers in crypto on Twitter. Same thing with Instagram, and you'll be on top of all the current news of what's happening. So it's at the end of the day, we're doing a lot of projects in NFTs. I believe in NFTs, but I also believe that the NFTs, as we go forward, have to have utility. They're being used in a very, very simplistic way, which is, here's an image, you own the image, you have it. But one day, everything will really be NFTs. I've said it before, and I really believe in it on all kind of talk shows. I believe that when you want to transfer car title, it will be in the future an NFT. You'll have all the VIN number, have all the information, you'll have who the liability is, what the insurance is, and you will literally be able to transfer that amongst each other. real estate transactions. There's no need to have 60 pages and then constantly have the banker lose 4 or 5 pages and call you 8 times. You know, I flip real estate all the time. I'm like, why are you calling me for the same signed document that I sent last week or the same financial document I sent 2 weeks ago? It'll all be on NFTs and we'll be trading it. And so realistically, the idea of the non-fungible token has a way of revolutionizing how we function day to day. And right now we're in the fun part. And so I think that there's going to be some really good opportunities to kind of start out, develop a portfolio. And I think a portfolio can actually evolve side by side in lockstep. Because what will happen is NFTs, and we're in the middle of doing it, will actually be paying you dividends. They'll be paying you interest. They'll be paying, in fact, stock NFTs are actually coming. They're planning for that, in which your stock will be an NFT that will end the 3-day settlement rule. There's a lot of really cool things coming down the pipeline. I've talked to a lot of developers and creators on what is possible with NFTs, turning into wallets themselves and holding their assets. So it's going to be a really fun space to be in, and you know, just be open-minded, do some research, and always start with what is known, and then bit by bit, the people who buy the known stuff follow and track what they're buying next and what they're tapping into as the next big thing. Any other questions?
Well, let's unpack it. You said you don't really like new technology, but
No.
you're talking in a space that is the newest technology.
You know, I will not say I'm a Luddite, but I'm not too far from it. I don't like cell phones. I don't like using my cell phone for everything, because I also believe that technology overused is easily abused, right? So, you know, we have Alexa in our homes, they're tracking our voice, we all know that. We have phones that are now being accessed by the government, and it's been forced on them, and we know this has happened, and so they tracked all our calls. So I'm very, very hyper cautious on how technology can be abused, but there's some really fun things that, you know, you'd be ignorant for me to kind of continue to keep my head in the sand. I did keep my head in the sand for a long time. That's it, you know, I'm human. You know, like, what's NFTs? Why do I want to go to back alleys to buy cryptocurrency? And, I mean, when I went to go, just as a crazy aside, when I went to buy Ecomi, I talked to like five people, because Ecomi was only on a weird exchange out of Hong Kong somewhere. And so I had registered, and when I talked to a few people, they go, oh man, don't register on that exchange. That exchange is the most worst exchange. It's like the back alley of exchanges. You know, you badge fills, all this other stuff. But I realized that I liked the project. I liked what they're doing. I understood the licensing. I liked what the team was, because they're all docked. And I immediately found a way to buy it. And sometimes that's what you have to do. You know, even when we release our token, it's going to be an offshore Singaporean exchange. But it's, you know, you guys know me, so I'm docked. So it's going to be a good project. so it's a mixed bag.
And Noble is not adverse to risk.
So I'm a big calculated risk fan.
That's right.
So, and that becomes from being a trader. I don't make uncalculated risk, but this is the question that we have to ask ourselves. I literally sat and was one of the first people to sign up for Amazon Prime. It was something like the 2000, sometime between 2001 and 2004. I thought it was the smartest thing ever. I realized that if you could get any package delivered for only $80 and you have to spend anything annually, you're winning. I thought it was brilliant. I never bought a share. Here I am a trader. Here I am going around doing investments. I never bought a share. Had I put $10,000 into Amazon, because I knew it was a solid idea, I knew it was a solid project, I'd have like $5 million today. And so the calculated risk factor is more so kind of turning upside down what you think the paradigm is. I've put 10,000 in True Badger. I've 10 times my money, because I realized that True Badger is a good project. It's a solid DeFi project, it's smart, and I know the people behind it are going to expand it. So when I make these risks, it's based on founders, based on whether the project makes sense to me, and if I can impact the project to the point of where I can comprehend where the future of that project is. And that falls whether it's an NFT, whether it's a token or crypto, or whether when I make investments in startups with my startup team. It's all about where, I've invested in Better Family because I realize that it's a great project, and it's one of the projects that I think is just smart. How do you not have a centralized company that's taking care of children and the needs of their families and creating and provide good products? It just makes sense. So I take risks, Doug, but it's calculated risk.
Always.
Always.
You know, and I've known Noble for a long time, guys, and I've said this before, a lot of you have heard me say this. I really, truly believe he's one of the smartest people I know. When it comes to really understanding this stuff, he dug in early, he's dug in good, and he really has the knowledge, right? And most of the time when he's talking, we get about half of what he says, right? But you know,
it's not intentional. It's not intentional.
But the half that we get is gems, right? So NFTs, just because Noble is in NFTs, should cause everybody in this room to go, okay, I need to think about what NFTs are. And I had a couple people in the room earlier today go, what is an NFT? Well, Noble, what is an NFT?
So, you know what's so funny? There's a couple ways to explain it because no one really ever wants to, they're always trying to unpack it and make it complicated. But, we all are NFTs, right? We are non-fungible. I could never replace Lauren with Doug or Corey. We're not, it just means non-fungible. There's no way that one item is exactly equivalent value of the next. Because it's a token, all of a sudden people act as if they don't understand that concept. But someone's house in Palos Verdes, 3,000 square feet, is worth $2 million, and a 3,000 square foot, same beautiful house in Dayton, Ohio is $200,000. That's non-fungible. No one would ever take that house in Dayton, Ohio and just immediately trade for the one in Palos Verdes. If you go to the concert, and a concert ticket, someone who's sitting in the nosebleed seats and someone sitting in VIP, they're both having the same concert experience, but in a completely different way. No one in the VIP is going to immediately switch their seat from the back to the front. And so they did the same thing with tokens. They created something that, unlike Bitcoin, where if I give Steve one Bitcoin and he gives me back one Bitcoin, it's the same, it is a lot different than me and Lauren trading carousel cards, right? So if Lauren gives me, she goes, I've got a Uniboogie, which is 1 of 2,000, and you've got, one of the rainbows that's 1 of 10,000, it's just a different value. And so that's what NFTs are. They're just simply the idea that this has a bigger store of value than the other, and that's why they're issuing them in such limited quantities. They're issuing them in 10,000, 8,000. When we issued our first series of NFTs, it's only 3,000. You're issuing them in limited quantities so that people can gain the full value, and then the utility of the NFT kind of goes forward. There's a lot of cool utility in our upcoming NFTs. We'll discuss that tomorrow.
Yeah, so last thing, and I think this is really important for everybody to understand. NFTs, we really started from art, right? And it was collectibles. It is going to be so much more than that.
Absolutely.
Just because of the contract itself. And you kind of hinted on that when you talked about car registration and different things. But we could talk about music, we could talk about movies.
We're going to talk about music tomorrow, and we're going to talk in depth about what we're doing with music royalties and NFTs.
Yeah.
So
get art. Not that art's not great. I'm an artist. Most of you guys know that. I love art. But get art out of your mind in terms of NFTs, because NFTs is a way to really change the world. And I think Noble's on the right path.
Oh yeah, I mean, it is, this NFTs is how regular people are going to access crypto, even if they've never bought one Ethereum or one Bitcoin or anything. Because their first introduction, the masses, will be via NFTs. It'll always be associated with something that they know and love, and it'll be part of their collection. That's why NFT comic books are going crazy, and NFT characters are going crazy, because everyone wants to collect. It's being gaming, and I'll let this go afterwards, but the gaming industry has done a successful job of tapping into our innate need to be hunter-gatherers. Collection is part of that, so that when we find something that we like, we have the innate, built genetic need to collect those things that we like, and we collect more of those things. Look at this room full of cool people who've been collected, right?
You don't have to worry about spilling it on you.
So we end up collecting more of those things that are like-minded, things that we like. So this is tapped into the gestalt of people wanting to have more of the same. It's only going to get bigger, it's only going to get better, and it's only going to get more profitable over time, because they are right now building financial products that will allow these NFTs to make you more money. So it's exciting, and it's one of the best spaces to be in right now.
Guys, it's a rare privilege to have somebody like Mr. Noble here to educate us on his knowledge. That was a great All right.
So wait, did everybody hear collectibles without the clutter? Was I the only one that noticed that?